This is Marc Broussard, and y'all know that I got soul. Cause I do it every day.
First off, on your Twitter, I read you describe your recently released album as the greatest collection of music of all time. Just talk to me about the album a little bit.
Well, that's kind of tongue-in-cheek, obviously, I'm being funny. I don't necessarily think that my music is it's the greatest of all time, but I am very proud of this record. I worked long and hard on this album. It was, definitely the better part of last year. Actually, a year and a half it took for us to finalize these versions. And I don't know, man. It's just, it's obviously only a snapshot in time. In retrospect, it's, that's what all my albums have ever been. It's just, snapping, grabbing a moment and bottling it and trying to push it out there to the masses. But all in all, I think this is by far the best record that I've put out.
Yeah. Okay. And early in your career, you were on Island Def Jam. Now you came to Atlantic for a couple albums. What's that transition like?
It's an interesting time, because everybody that's at Atlantic now was actually at Island Def Jam back then.
Yeah.
Leora Cohen, Julie Greenwald, and a whole litany of other folks that were all at IDJ running the show over there. And then they left the company, went to Warner, and L.A. Reid took over at IDJ. And then I made a second record for Island that L.A. felt was not right. Okay. And I asked to be let go. And I was facing another summer of touring on the same record, like the fourth summer in a row. And I said, no, I can't do that. I need to put out another record. So we did this soul cover record and went in the studio and tracked it, and then got it picked up by Vanguard. And they put it out, and then Atlanta came to the table and signed me up. So it was, I think I ended up in a much better position than a lot of other folks that have had similar scenarios in the business. It happens quite a bit where there's changeover in a record label and artists kind of get lost in the shuffle. Luckily, I was able to get out of my record deal with Island, put out a great record in SOS, and then find a new home in Atlanta. With all the same people that I originally had signed with. It's good stuff.
Cool. Talk to me about your process as a writer. I know you write all your songs, and I love to hear the creative process that goes into putting a song together. So, take me through your process.
Well, it's generally me and another guy or another gal or a couple of guys and gals or something like that in the room. And I personally, I play guitar and I play, I know every change under the sun, but I much rather hand the arrangement duties over to someone else. Because I feel like my forte is my voice. So I like to hand the arrangement duties over to somebody else. And then really it's depending on, whether we're writing for me or writing for someone else, it's, if we're writing for me, then I kind of determine the parameters of what we're going to talk about. I kind of set the tone. Okay, this is, hey, my wife and I had a argument the other day in the front yard. Let's talk about this. She said, she wants me to just agree with her all the time. How about writing a song like Yes Man? Do you want my love or do you just want a yes man? And then with this record in particular, with Jamie Kinney, my producer and co-writer, once we got that initial idea down and got a little bit of a form for a melody on a verse or a chorus, then it would behoove me to step out for a little ways and let Jamie work out the arrangement for a little while, probably an hour or so. So I'd just go upstairs and play Xbox for an hour or so, and let him work out the arrangement, because what would happen is we would start to write the song, and I would be trying to transition from a verse to a pre-chorus, and Jamie is still working out some little minor transitional thing over and over and over and over and over again, and I can't progress. I can't move beyond. So I'd rather just get out of the room, let him work out the arrangement, come back, and then we focused on the lyric. And that the lyrical process alone was generally an all-day affair.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to beat everything we have on tape, on paper, constantly.
Yeah.
If we write something, yeah, that sounds good, we keep it, type it up.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back to that probably 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
Just to try and beat it, just to try and get more emotion, more feeling into that simple little line. And by the end of the day, we've got a fully fleshed out demo.
Yeah.
Because Jamie's really talented with the computer and programming, drums especially. And by the end of the day, we've got a demo that we can turn into the record label and say, this is what it's going to sound like on the record.
Cool. Your father was a musician, a Hall of Fame guitar player. So was it always predetermined that you were going to be a musician as well? And if not, when did you discover that you wanted to be a musician yourself?
I mean, I definitely feel like I would, no matter what, I was always going to play music in some capacity. But it wasn't ever really presented to me as a viable option to do what I'm doing now as a major label artist. And because growing up in South Louisiana, I'm just exposed to a whole host of guys that play music as a side gig, as an extra money gig on the weekends up and down the Gulf Coast. So yes and no. I was always predetermined to be a musician. However, being a professional recording artist was not something that I realized until I was in my early 20s.
Yeah, cool. I've always, not always, but in a number of places I've read your style of music described as Louisiana Bayou Soul. So how do you kind of escape that stigma of just being a regional artist and reach a national audience?
It's interesting. I think the stigma, I don't necessarily view it as a stigma. First and foremost, that region of the country is so special in so many people's eyes. The food, the music, everything about it is so special that I've got no problems being associated with it. It's not like, I don't feel like Louisiana Bayou Soul is necessarily the same thing as Seattle grunge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like its own thing, and it's descriptive without being confining, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's descriptive enough in that here's a guy from Louisiana that sings soul music, blue-eyed soul singer from Louisiana, without saying that that's all the guy does.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, you're not even 30 years old yet, but, your music, the kind of soul you perform gives me the impression you're kind of like an old soul, and especially hearing your list of influences. So, tell me about the demographic and the fan base you've assembled over the years, because has it been like a certain age range, an older crowd, or, talk about that?
It's interesting. I think, for the most part, we're right in, the average age is probably somewhere in the mid-30s, if I had to guess. Maybe a little younger than that. But we're not doing all ages shows. We're doing club shows, so it's 21 and over generally, or 18 and over generally. And I think once we start to do some all ages shows, we're going to start seeing a lot more younger people show up. Like really young people.
Yeah.
Really, because I'm getting feedback from fans all the time. My 7-year-old is furious at me right now because I'm at your show and just wanted to be here.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna see and more importantly, when we start doing all ages shows, they're gonna be earlier shows, which will allow some of the really older folks to come out that are generally in bed by the time I hit the club stage.
Okay, cool. One last question. You perform a style of soul music a lot of people generally associate with African American style of music. So have you ever witnessed any color barriers as you've gone along your journey?
Most definitely.
Yeah. And has it kind of held you back or anything? How have you dealt with it?
Well, I was talking about L.A. Reid taking over Island Def Jam and me making a second record for Island. It was a very soulful R&B kind of a record, and L.A. Reid point blankly said that it was too urban. And granted, I'm not Justin Timberlake, and I wasn't even trying to be a Justin Timberlake or a Robin Thicke record. It was just you know, it's just me singing some really kind of urban, you know, soul tracks. And quite frankly, when he said, you know, it's too urban, I took it as you're too white to sing that stuff. Now, did I feel discriminated against? No, not really. But did I feel like, you know, there were limitations there? Absolutely. You know, absolutely. So, you know, it is what it is, and it's, you know, I've always enjoyed singing the way I sing, and people seem to enjoy it as well. And so I'm just going to do me, and hopefully people will continue to dig it.
I like that. Cool. Anything you'd like to add?
Man, check out my website, MarcBroussard.com, for any of the tour dates. And, you know, make sure to come out and see the shows, because that's where the real bread and butter is. That's where the real fun is.
Cool.